In 2018, we met a man whose life had been turned upside down.
I was getting cards and letters and phone calls, and I knew I had a serious problem.
Pat Marsh, an airshow jet pilot, unfazed by the speed of sound, was blindsided by a scheme that used his stolen identity to lure unsuspecting women looking for love online.
We've got a dozen victims on this table, and I know that I've spoken or communicated with at least 50. There's got to be 500 victims just with, there's got to be 500 victims just with me.
It was all part of an elaborate romance scam. Criminals had Marsh's name, address, birthday, background, and professional details, and were using it to create fake profiles on dating sites. One victim, Pam Dodds, told us how fake Pat Marsh convinced her she had found the love of her life.
There was, a chemistry, a connection that was made.
They exchanged thousands of texts and even had phone calls, but it was all a lie, a carefully constructed ploy to gain her trust and ultimately her money.
First it was 1,000, then he needed 12,000. And then he needed 37,000.
The criminal was just minutes away from stealing Dodd's life savings when the real Pat Marsh intervened, warning her and her family that she was being scammed. The bank was able to freeze the funds that were in the process of being transferred. Others were not so lucky. When we first did this story in 2018, the FBI estimated counterfeit online Romeos were responsible for stealing more than $300 million. Today, that tally is well over $1 billion, with organized crime at the heart of it all.
We're talking about a decade's worth of victims here.
This summer, South Carolina detective Eric Gillespie reached out 7 years after our original story aired. Con men were operating the same scheme and still using Pat Marsh's persona to lure unsuspecting women.
So once we started digging into everything is when I realized that the Patrick Marsh moniker had been used for far longer than just what we were looking at here.
In fact, Gillespie is investigating more than 60 Pat Marsh cases across the U.S. He says the fact that Marsh is a real person is part of what makes the scam work so well.
Almost every single one that I've talked to has said that they, I did my due diligence. I went online, so I thought that I'd done my homework. And every time I've had to tell them, like, yeah, you did. Patrick Marsh is a real person. He is a real guy. The person that you were speaking with is not him, though.
Gillespie says average losses for romance scam victims are $19,000, but for those over 60, it's $83,000. One of his current victims lost hundreds of thousands when a fake Pat Marsh convinced her to take out a loan against her house.
I think we just need to let the women know that if this happens to them, they need to come forward. It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing to be taken advantage of. But when you open your heart to someone, that's where you kind of get blindsided.